in the heart of the wild southern African wilderness, where the sun scorches every blade of grass and the wind sighs through brittle branches. There exists a land where life and loss move without permission. This is not a place for the faint of heart. There are no fences, no illusions of man-made fairness, only instinct and endurance. Madiba is a vast, time-honored wildlife reserve stretching across hundreds of square kilometers. Here, every footprint pressed into the sand. In this land, lions are more than kings of the savannah. They are witnesses to the harsh, never-ending rhythm of life itself. They hunt and are hunted. They are born and quietly fade away. And into this land, seemingly untouched by tenderness, arrives a young woman, Lina, a final-year veterinary student, fresh from her graduation exams. Has chosen to intern at Madiba in search of something beyond knowledge. She carries a small backpack, a water bottle, a notebook, and a veterinary stethoscope. But more importantly, she brings a heart not yet hardened by the weight of reality. Lina doesn't carry a weapon. She doesn't wear a ranger's uniform. She's not familiar with the roars that rumble through the night. But she brings something few others do: empathy. To Lina, the labored breaths after a failed chase, or the gaze of a lioness taking one last look at her cubs, are all moments worth listening to, as part of life itself. A few days after arriving in Madiba, Lina was assigned to join a team tracking a pride of lions fitted with location collars. She sat in the back seat of the jeep, eyes fixed on the tall grass swaying like ocean waves. Under the fading afternoon light, the vehicle rolled across dry, cracked red earth, where lion tracks were pressed deep into the soft sand. For a brief moment, Lina felt like a tiny creature, quietly listening to nature's grand story. Suddenly, someone in the group signaled to stop the vehicle. Out in the open savanna, a small figure stood alone, a lion cub, thin, legs trembling, its dusty coat rough and patchy. It stared toward the jeep. No roar, no attempt to flee, just stared, with eyes wet, panicked and seeming to plead for something unspoken. Lina stepped out and slowly approached, not as a researcher, but as someone who had just brushed against something raw and heartbreakingly real. Not far from the cub lay the body of a lioness. On her side, her belly stained red, her eyes closed in stillness. On her back was a wound, clean, cold, unmistakable, the mark of poaching. Lina stood still for a long time. No one said a word. The wind whispered through the grass. The sky began to tint with twilight. Someone in the group finally exhaled. It won't make it. Just a cub. Its mother's gone. The pride left it behind. The laws of nature, everyone knew them. But Lina couldn't accept it. She didn't see the cub as just another piece of the ecosystem. She saw a child who had just lost its mother, and with her, the only place it belonged. And in that moment, a decision began to take shape. Quietly, but unmistakably. right in the heart of the young woman. Back at the ranger station, the tension in the meeting room was tight as a wire. A quick report was filed. Lioness confirmed deceased, cub's chances of survival uncertain. A senior officer spoke plainly. "We can't interfere. It has to adapt on its own. That's the rule." Lina clenched her hands, not out of anger, but from the helplessness of watching logic turn into something quietly unforgiving. That night, Lina sat alone under the flicker of an oil lamp, pen in hand, but unable to write. Outside, the lion cub lay by itself in the quarantine enclosure, eyes wide open, fixed on the black sky above. She walked over, placed her hand on the iron bars, and whispered a promise, soft but steady. "You're not a data point. You're not a research subject. You are a life looking for a reason to keep going." The next morning, she quietly packed a few essentials: a water bottle, compass, topographic map, some goat milk, and little Tao, the cub, wrapped in a coarse blanket. She left a single line in the report log. "I'm taking him back to where he belongs. If not for science, then for compassion." No one stepped in to stop her this time, but everyone watched, in silence, without a word. As she passed through the gates of the reserve and stepped into the sunlit savannah, carrying a fragile life and a resolve that would not be moved. Before the sun had fully risen, Lina quietly left the research station. On her back was an old backpack, in her right hand, a cloth sling. Where Tao slept, curled up in a tight little ball. She had named him Tao, from the Tswana word meaning first light. "Because you're today's first hope," she whispered. The map in her hand marked a location nearly 50 kilometers away, a place where a pride of lionesses had once been recorded raising cubs. The savannah is no place for dreamers. By day, the heat scorched everything. Every step on the searing ground made her move slowly, carefully. Tao was wrapped in a damp cloth, nestled inside the front pouch across her chest, only his head exposed to breathe. By afternoon, the wind picked up, carrying the dry scent of dust and the distant trace of decay. Once, she spotted hyenas watching from across a ridge, eyes glowing. Lina had no weapon. She shouted with all her strength, swinging her backpack wildly. The hyenas scattered. At night, she camped by the edge of a dry riverbed, leaning against a tree, wrapping Tao snugly in her jacket. The air grew colder, thunder rolled in the distance, and Tao let out a soft cry. Trembling, she picked him up, held him close to her chest, and murmured gently, "Sleep now. Tomorrow will be beautiful. I'm right here." Day by day, Tao stopped flinching at every unfamiliar sound. Instead, he began hiding behind Lina, ears perked as if listening for her footsteps. She learned to speak to him with her eyes, and Tao somehow seemed to understand. She wasn't his real mother, but she was the only safe place he knew. Once, when Lina slipped down a slope and scraped her knee, Tao circled her anxiously, letting out small, worried cries. "I'm okay," she smiled, gently stroking his head. "We're both just learning how to survive." On the 7th afternoon, Lina climbed a tall mound and scanned the distant low grass through her binoculars. And then she saw them. A pride of lionesses, 3 adults and 2 cubs smaller than Tao, tumbling playfully around a bush. Lina caught her breath. This was the pride marked on the map, and Tao's one true hope of returning to the wild. She turned to look at Tao, now dozing off at her feet. His lips twitched slightly, as if dreaming, and her heart tightened. That night, by the flicker of a small fire, Lina couldn't sleep. If I let him go, he might be rejected. If I keep him, he'll never learn how to be a real lion. She looked at Tao. He had woken in the night, nudged his head into her hand, and let out a soft cry as if asking to nurse. And in that moment, she understood. I haven't just cared for him. I've become everything he knows of the world. The next morning, she held Tao close. One last time. She carefully approached the edge of the lion's territory, then gently set Tao down in the grass, a few hundred meters away, just far enough for the pride to see him, but not see him as a threat. Tao turned his head to her, eyes wide as if asking, "Why aren't you coming with me?" Lina bit her lip and stepped back. "Go on, Tao. You belong there." Tao hesitated for a moment, then slowly walked toward the pride. Lina dropped to her knees. She didn't cry out loud, but the tears came, quiet and unending. The early morning wind carried the scent of dew and fresh earth after a cold night. Lina stood silently, watching Tao's small figure disappear behind the tall grass. I should go, she told herself. But her feet wouldn't move. She began to follow Tao, keeping a wide distance, careful not to let any human scent get too close. She didn't interfere, only observed, like a shadow drifting across the savannah. 3 hours passed. 17 times she had to stop, each time when a lioness's warning growl echoed from afar. She never turned back, and finally, at the edge of a dry basin, where the pride lay resting in the shade of a tree, she saw Tao approach the oldest lioness. Tao paused. No running, no growling, no trembling. The entire pride turned their gaze toward him. One lioness stepped forward, large, steady, her stride calm, her coat already graying along the shoulders. Lina held her breath. Everything slowed. Even the wind seemed to stop. Tao looked up, didn't flinch. The lioness lowered her head, then unexpectedly, gently licked Tao's face. Once, twice, as if calling her cub back home. Tao let out that familiar soft purring sound, the kind only comfort can bring. His small tail flicked as he stepped back toward her, curled up beside her belly, and rested his head against her. Lina broke down in tears. Not loud, just dropped to her knees, hands covering her face, her entire body trembling, as if releasing a heavy stone she had carried too long. In the distance, the pride lay quietly, as though Tao had never left. No drama, no miracles, just nature, gently putting itself back together. And in that moment, Lina understood. There are things in life that only return to where they belong, when we finally let go. Tao curled up between the hind legs of the older lioness, like a little one finally finding its way back into a mother's embrace. Another cub from the pride approached, gently stretching its head forward to nuzzle Tao. There were no growls, no scuffles, no wary stares, only instinct and acceptance. Tao stood, tail flicking, and joined the other cub in a playful run across the dry grass. In the glow of twilight, his wispy mane danced in the breeze, like the first light of a brand new dawn. Lina stood at the edge of the clearing, fingers clenched tightly around the straps of her backpack. She didn't step forward, she didn't call out to Tao. She didn't need to, it was enough just to witness and remember. A soft breeze swept through. The grass swayed as if waving goodbye. She closed her eyes, letting her breath blend into the rhythm of the wild. Then she turned around. No glancing back, no hurried steps, only. Each stride felt like gently setting her heart down onto the earth. That night, inside a small tent back at the resting station, Lina wrote in her worn-out journal. The ink smudged slightly from her trembling hands, but the words still came, clear and steady. I came here to save a lion cub, but I never expected that he would be the one to save my heart. Outside, the savannah lit up with the first stars of night. The sounds of nocturnal life echoed in the distance, no longer haunting, but the voice of a place she would carry with her always. No map required. When Lina returned to the Madiba Conservation Center, she said nothing. No one asked, and no explanation was needed. Her eyes, deeper now, quieter, said everything. In the internal logbook, there was only one line. Tao returned to the wild. Status, adapting well. But the story didn't end there. A week later, footage from a remote camera near the edge of the rewilding zone was played at a scientific team meeting. It showed the moment the lioness licked Tao's face. For the first full minute of the video, no one spoke. Just silence and eyes quietly welling up. Someone later uploaded the clip online. No background music, no dramatic title, just a single caption colon. When kindness crosses the boundary between human and wild. 3 days later, the video hit 1 million views, then 10 million. It spread across conservation and wildlife forums around the world. Scientists called it a rare phenomenon. Emotional reception between humans and wildlife. When a wild animal accepts a human not as an intruder, but as part of a trusted life cycle. But Lina never gave it a name. To her, it was simply a colon. A real moment, a wordless bond, a right thing, done with the heart. And from then on, every time she passed the framed photo at the center. Tao nestled beneath the lioness in the open grasslands. She smiled, not out of pride, but because she knew that once in her life, she had truly returned a life to the world in the right way. at the right time, and in the only place it was ever meant to be. Months passed. The dry season had returned once more to the land of Madiba. Lina came back, not as a student this time, but like an old friend revisiting a place etched in memory. With a small backpack on her back and her weathered journal in hand, she quietly crossed the sun-scorched savannah, walking the same path as before. When she reached the familiar hilltop, she stood still. Down below in the breezy grasslands, a group of young lions played beneath the shade of a wide tree. Among them, a young male, larger than the rest, with a soft mane beginning to grow around his neck, strong yet somehow familiar. Lina recognized Tao instantly. She didn't call out, didn't move closer. Tao was playing, but then, as if something deep within nudged him, he stopped, turned his head, and looked toward her. No roar, no flight, no hesitation, just looking for a long time. That gaze, still the same eyes from long ago, now steadier, calmer, but deep within them, something unchanged remained. Recognition, not of a trainer, not of a familiar scent, but of a piece of childhood, of a hand that once held him when the world felt too big and too cold. Lina smiled. Tao turned away, returning to the pride, as if a farewell had already been spoken long ago, and no more was needed. On the hilltop, the wind stilled. Golden grass rustled softly, and in that fleeting moment, a circle closed. Not with words, not with tears, but with presence. If you've ever believed that motherhood is more than instinct, that it's a language beyond species, if you believe that a heart, whether beating in a human or a wild creature, knows how to tremble with love, then the story of Lina and Tao is proof. Sometimes, to save a life, you don't need a miracle, you just need to step toward it, with faith and without turning back. There are bonds that don't need words. Just presence, just the courage to care. If this story touched your heart, like to help its message ripple outward, share so others may see kindness alive in the wild. And subscribe to walk with us through real journeys where nature speaks through the lives it carries. Somewhere out there in the savannah, Tao is still growing, and Lina is still the light he once saw for the very first time. Love doesn't need a name, as long as it's real.